Hello and welcome to a book bag extra for the month of June. I have put up 2 book bags, as you can see, for literary festivals, Stoke Newington and the Falmouth Book Festival, but I'm involved in quite a few festivals, including Wimbledon and Oxford. I absolutely love going to festivals, and I wanted to say a few words about the big row that has developed over the past few weeks that has impacted on the Hay Festival and the Edinburgh Book Festival, which is, of course, the row over sponsors, particularly Baillie Gifford. I'm not making any comment, by the way, on the sponsors of these festivals. I don't know anything about their sponsors. I just want to indicate my support for the sector. And I have a few words about the issue of sponsorship. It is tremendously difficult to get sponsors for book festivals, for book prizes. I've had some experience of this with the Authors Club when we tried to get some sponsorship for our prize, the Best First Novel Award. More about that a little bit later on. But you spend a lot of time chasing people, setting up meetings, putting forward proposals. We're all volunteers anyway, so you give up a lot of your time. And the last time we really thought we were getting anywhere, a delegation of us went for a meeting. We were chasing a relatively small amount of money, it has to be said, a little bit for promotion and a little bit for the winner. And the final meeting, we had somebody in the meeting said to us, "So, fiction, what is it?" and we kind of made our excuses and left fairly quickly after that. But it is really very, very difficult to find sponsors. A lot of festivals wouldn't go ahead without sponsors. I was speaking to somebody who is a very successful fundraiser once, and he said to me, sponsors, they don't really like authors. They're a bit wary of authors. They're seen as awkward and ungrateful. So that sort of, doesn't make it any easier. And I was thinking, while I was pondering about this whole row over the sponsors, Baillie Gifford, and whatever links they do or don't have to things that activists do not approve of, I thought back to the John Llewellyn Rhys Prize, a lovely prize for a writer under 30. I've judged the prize. I used to go along to the prize lunches, and I was there when Harry Kunzru won one year for one of his novels. And he did not come to the prize lunch, but he sent his agent to turn it down on his behalf because he did not approve of the sponsorship that the prize had with the Daily Mail. Now, as everybody knows, this was utterly devastating for the Daily Mail. They've never quite been the same since. It really knocked their profitability. What actually happens is that people go, "Oh, tar, thanks, we'll keep our money. Give it to somebody else." It does not impact the sponsor particularly, but it does impact the prize. In this case, the John Llewellyn Rhys Prize folded without sponsorship. I think it went on for 1 year, maybe 2. But that's sad because that was named after somebody, a young writer who died in the war and who did not live to fulfill his potential. And the name of the prize was intended to indicate that, to give other young writers a chance that poor old John Llewellyn Rhys did not have. So what happens, and we have to say that the people who are doing these campaigns are very well-meaning, but it just doesn't have the effect maybe that they hope to have. I mean, it just means that people keep their money in their pockets. I think it would be a useful thing if they put some hard work into drawing up lists of ethical sponsors who could fill the gap. But as I say, that probably feels like too much hard work. I mean, I saw on Twitter somebody had put a picture of a child who was killed in Gaza with a comment along the lines of, "Oh, you know, and you're so sad about your literary festival." I mean, can't we care about both? And because something terrible is happening in the world, it doesn't mean that the whole list of things that aren't as bad are okay. So that seemed a strange response to me. And another response is, well, I don't go to literary festivals and I don't like them. I mean, I don't go to football matches and I don't like football, but I would not seek to deny the great pleasure that many people have going to support their team. And in fact, to say further, probably the joy and despair of following a favourite team is something that gives life zest and interest. And this is what festivals do, and this is what books do. And it's such a shame to think that festivals are now wondering whether they can go ahead. I mean, they wouldn't go ahead without sponsorship. And the only thing really you can do with the sponsors is to thank them enormously for their input and their work. So those are my thoughts on the Baillie Gifford row. That I think it is very short-sighted and very, very sad, and I hope it can be resolved quickly. Now, speaking of prizes, we just handed out the Best First Novel Award. It was the 70th anniversary of the prize, so this is a very venerable prize. And as I've said, we find it very difficult. We found it difficult to find sponsors beyond individual generous people. So the winner of the prize, it was announced at a wonderful dinner at the National Liberal Club. Samira Ahmed was our guest adjudicator. She was given our 6 novels that we have argued ourselves into the ground over, and her choice of winner was All the Little Bird Hearts by Victoria Lloyd Barlow. A wonderful novel. When you're reading 60 or so debut novels, I think the entire entry list was more like 90 novels. We don't all read all the books. We simply can't. But when you're reading so many of them, the ones that linger even after months and months and months or almost a year, that you might not remember plot details, but you remember atmosphere and writing and just the grip that the story had on you. So Victoria's book certainly won out on that regard. But it was a really fantastic shortlist. I loved Close to Home by Michael McGee, Pearl by Shan Hughes, The New Life, Tom Crew, a book that has done incredibly well in other prizes as well. One Small Voice by Santanu Bhattacharya, and Fire Rush by Jacqueline Crooks. So a really fantastic shortlist. We didn't envy Samira at all in having to come up with a winner. So well done to everybody on the shortlist and indeed the long list. It's great fun to do. You can find the details on the Authors Club website. I went to a rather splendid and unusual and different book launch recently, which was the book for Penelope, the launch for Penelope Tree's debut, Piece of My Heart, a debut novel about the 60s fashion scene. And of course, she is the famous face of the 60s, the model, the muse of David Bailey. The launch was at the Iconic Images Gallery, which is in Pall Mall. Really spectacular book launch for Moonflower Books. Some very glamorous people from the fashion world were there. Adina Renee was there. Jasper Conran was there. And I loved bumping into Diana Melly. Diana Melly really is a legend in literary terms, having been a great helper to Bruce Chatwin and Jean Rhys in terms of, you know, generously opening up her homes and helping writers a really wonderful person. She wrote a fantastic memoir. She was married to George Melly, so that was pretty lively, and just an incredible free spirit. Wonderful to see her. Her novel, her memoir rather, is called, I think it's called Take a Girl Like Me. Marvelous. I really recommend it. So that was the Penelope Tree launch, and Penelope looked absolutely amazing, and I'm looking forward to reading the novel. And finally, rather sad news. Book Bag was saddened indeed to hear of the death of John Burnside, the novelist, memoirist, and very prolific poet, prolific and wonderful poet. I immediately went to dig out some of his collections. My favourite of his is Black Cat Bone, and I couldn't find that. Annoyingly, I might have lent it to somebody who's not given it back, but that won the T.S. Eliot Prize and the Forward Prize, I believe. So I have a few of his terrific collections for Cape here. I mean, he was so prolific, it almost felt like they were coming out once a year or once every 2 years. All One Breath, Still Life with Feeding Snake, and The Asylum Dance. So I've been rereading Burnside and enjoying doing so. But to finish, I've picked a poem from this book, Feast Days. It's an early book of his. I think it's his third, Sekran Warbird, 1992. His poetry is very skilled. He's very virtuosic, and it just has this extraordinary flavour of describing the scene but hinting at what is not seen, the mystery surrounding human life. So I just picked up this poem. It's called Women. I thought it was rather wonderful. I had no way of knowing what happened under the sea, but for the stories they told of mermaids who slipped their skins and came into the human dark. They died for love. But this is how everything works. Fairy gardens, silted in the mind. Undrinkable liquors glinting on the shelves in basements, wrapped in verdigris and salt. And women are moving still in the rooms of the sea, perhaps of their own volition, perhaps with the tide, while I stand on the shore with a rolled skin in my hands, repeating the spell and digging a hole in the shadows. I love that line, perhaps of their own volition, perhaps with the tide. So he's a Scottish writer, alluding to the myth, the fairy story of the Selkie there, the Seal Maidens. A beautiful poem. R.I.P. John Burnside, you will be sadly missed. Thanks for watching.